But hey, it's really good to be here this morning. My wife sends her greetings. Our little kids are sick, so I came out with Kayla. And I told Kayla this is a big deal. So normally I let no one drive with me when I go teach somewhere. I need total silence. So I was like, Kayla, you can drive with me, but you must be totally silent. There's no distracting Daddy. Daddy is praying and looking at notes. So there's just, okay, I can do it. I'll get my coloring book. Got a coloring book, and I'm good. So she was great. But it's really good to be here this morning and to look at this sermon on the plane that I believe you've looked at the last couple of weeks. Luke 6:27 to 45. I want to say quickly, hey, I saw that Camp Shalom is almost fully funded, which is amazing. That is so great. So thanks to everyone who contributed to that. That was fantastic. That's really encouraging for us. So let's look at Luke 27 to 45. So if you have a Bible, go ahead and take it out. We're going to look at most of the verses there. Some of them will be on the screen. If you have a Bible, go ahead and get it out. I think Doug knew that I love this passage, and I talk about it all the time, so maybe that's why he let me come and speak today in Luke chapter 6. But as we get started here, before we look at the text, we'll go ahead and turn to it and keep it. I want to emphasize one thing off the bat, and that is a very simple idea, and we know it's true, but the idea that Jesus is brilliant. Okay? Jesus is completely brilliant, insightful, wise, creative, and practical as a teacher. Okay, sometimes when we think of like the greatest teachers of all time, or most of the wisest people of all time, for some reason Jesus isn't always the first person in our mind to jump into that conversation. And when we think of Jesus as evangelicals, we have the baby Jesus jumps into our head. Some of you are laughing with a Will Ferrell quote in your head, I think, right now. Some of you aren't. We think of the baby Jesus, right? Which is a real Jesus. You know, we know, we respect, and we think Jesus on the cross as our Savior, and that jumps into our mind. But sometimes we don't give quite as much honor or respect to the teacher Jesus, to this incredible rabbi. I mean, this absolutely incredibly wise, insightful teacher Jesus. So I just want to remind us for a moment that these words we get to look at, we get to look at the words of the most incredible God in the human body teaching us in an incredibly insightful and creative and even funny and wise way. So let us be in awe and be grateful. We get to look at these incredible ethical teachings of Jesus that are so great and so creative, so practical, and so incredibly wise. Amen? So this is incredible stuff we get to look at here. I also want to give another note before we get into the text. And that is sometimes when we look at these ethical teachings, or some of these, like Justin mentioned, kind of hard teachings of Jesus, sometimes for a lot of us, we look at them and we think, oh my goodness, like I don't do that very well. And our first thought in our head is just being upset with ourselves, or shame or doubt or insecurity creep in about how we failed in the past. We think, I just can't do this. Or we think, I could never do that. Like, I could never love my enemies. I mean, how could I ever turn the other cheek if somebody hit me? Like, that is just not practical. That's kind of this fairy tale thing. So I want to encourage you a couple things. One of them is, if you feel insecure or shameful when this comes up, that isn't the point of the teaching. It doesn't make us feel shameful of our failures. We all fail, we're going to keep failing. So if you feel shameful, remind yourself, that's not the point of this. Okay? And also if you feel, I could never do that, I could never become this person, that's not true. Because our God can transform us. Amen? Our God is powerful and can transform our hearts into people who can actually live this kind of way. Okay? So, I want to tell you a story. I love this story. So, if you've thought about U.S. history at all, or gone to school in America, or been in America much at all, even if you don't live in East Oakland, where I live, it's a bigger deal, but you've probably heard of Martin Luther King Jr., right? So in the Civil Rights era, in the 1950s and 60s, before that, in that time period, I think we all know there was all kinds of great injustice towards African American people, right? There was segregation, there was lynching, people weren't allowed to vote, people weren't allowed to go in certain schools, in certain restaurants, in certain, all kinds of things. There was all kinds of evil happening towards African American people. And in this movement towards freedom, towards equality, towards justice in our country, Martin Luther King was in the middle of it, as a pastor, as a preacher, as a leader. And one of the things that he emphasized over and over and over again, when you really read what he said, he emphasized this text right here. Over and over again, he told people, yes, we are being oppressed, we have been abused, some of us have been beaten or imprisoned unfairly, but we will love our enemy. The only way this works is if we love our enemy. If we love our oppressor. If when we're beaten, when we're hit, if we don't react with the same hatred, if we love instead of hate, this has to be at the core of the movement. So this idea, this Jesus teachings were at the very core of this civil rights movement. There are lots of beautiful stories, and one of them I want to share briefly before we get into the text, to show you how powerful this can be when we put it into practice. The day was January 30th, 1956. It was in the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott. King was not quite as famous as he was later. This was early on in the movement. King was speaking at a church like he would almost every night, preaching at a church. Someone came to him, and there's of course all kinds of deep racial tension in Montgomery right now. Someone came to him and said, "Dr. King, there's an explosion at your house. Someone put a bomb off at your house. And your wife and your 10-week-old daughter are there, but they're okay, but there's an explosion, so you need to leave." So he quickly told the crowd, "Something happened in my home, I have to leave, but it's okay, you just stay here, I have to go home." So he rushes home, and imagine being a father and a husband rushing home, knowing that your enemy has bombed your house, okay? So he's rushing back to his house. He goes through a big crowd. There's already an angry crowd outside, and he goes in, and he finds and his wife and his daughter were in the back of the house. The front of the house, there was an explosion, but they were okay. So he makes sure they're okay. And then he goes in, and there's a huge scene, full of tension, like just ripe for violence, right? So there are white reporters in his house who are trying to finish their report and get out of there, and they see a big crowd of African-American people outside the house. And the crowd is angry. Right? The crowd has seen enough injustice, the crowd has seen enough of this, and the crowd is angry. And there were knives in the crowd, and there were guns in the crowd, and the crowd was angry. And the reporters inside were scared. They thought, we don't want to something bad's going to happen. We don't even want to push our way through. What do we do? They were scared and in trouble. And then behind the crowd are white police officers who didn't always get along with the crowd, the African-American crowd out front, just to say the least, okay? So in the middle of this tense scene, right, imagine his family has almost died from a bomb from the people who don't want him to succeed in this movement. And he runs out to the crowd calmly, says, and he said, I'm going to read exactly what he said. He said, "Don't get panicky." He said, "Don't do anything panicky. Don't get your weapons. If you have weapons, take them home. He who lives by the sword will die by the sword. Remember, that is what Jesus said. We are not advocating violence. We want to love our enemies. I want you to love our enemies. Be good to them. This is what we must live by. We must meet hate with love." So he held up his hand. People were there saying he was very calm. And imagine his wife there's a bomb in his house, and he tells everybody, "No, we must follow Jesus. We will meet this hate with love. I want everyone to calm down. I want everyone to go home. And we will keep loving these people who have done this." And the crowd disbanded. Everyone left, everyone went home, and the city officials who were there, the police, were absolutely amazed. We're absolutely blown away that someone could love an enemy like this, and that someone could teach people following him to love an enemy like this. And that kind of teaching, based on the Sermon on the Plain and the Sermon on the Mount, really was at the core of the Civil Rights Movement. And at the core of what really changed our country, and then the whole world saw that, and it really helped change the world. But this Sermon on the Mount, when it's practiced, and when it becomes a part of us, this can really shake up the world. This can shake up a neighborhood. This can shake up a school or a church or a Bay Area. When we actually take these things seriously and see God change us and we live these things, it changes our reality. So let's look at Luke 6, 43 to 45 and get into this. Okay. I lost my Bible this morning. I had to find a new one back there. I had a panicky moment. I don't have my trusty Bible that I really like, so we're going to try this old NIV I found from Sarah Lou. Left it here years ago, probably. But we got it. Okay. So, thanks, Sarah Lou. So, Luke 6, 43 to 45. We're going to start at the end of the passage, because I think it gives light to what we're going to look at in the beginning of the passage later. So, Luke 6, 43 to 45. "No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, the mouth speaks." So these teachings we're looking at in a moment are very practical, right? When you get hit, turn your cheek. You love your enemy. When someone curses you, you pray for them. This is very practical, action-oriented things. But at the end of the teaching, at the end of this passage, Jesus says, but it's really about your heart. Really, whatever is deep inside you, whether we call it a heart or a soul, or whether we call it our character or our spirit, there's something inside of us that dictates what really happens when push comes to shove. There's something inside of us that overflows in our relationships. It comes out naturally. But Jesus says, no, I'm getting to the core. Okay, it is about practical things, but really it's about a whole new way of being a person. It's about having a whole new heart. This is about becoming an entirely new human being, having a whole new character, a whole new heart inside of you. That's what I'm talking about. Being a whole new person. This is how God can make you. Something deep inside of us needs to be changed by God, by the Spirit of God. And we as Christians believe, right, that the Spirit of God can live within us. Correct? Am I making this up? Right? So we believe that somehow the Spirit of God can come inside of us, can indwell us, and can actually change our heart. Can actually change who we are deep inside of us. We can actually be transformed. Okay? In Jesus' time, a disciple would follow a rabbi and would have the expectation that when you followed a rabbi, you would become like the rabbi. That's why you followed a rabbi. You would follow the rabbi, and eventually you would be like the rabbi. It's actually mentioned in verse 40, just a little earlier. It says, everyone who is fully trained will become like the teacher. So there is an expectation that we will be changed. But if we go back to this tree analogy, this doesn't mean we hear a sermon about loving our enemy and turning the other cheek, and then we go home, and let's say it's like an apple tree. So we hear a sermon, we're all supposed to be apple trees and make apples. It doesn't mean we go home, we go, okay, I got to produce some apples. Right? I'm a vine, but man, I'm going to produce some apples today. So I'm just going to think really hard about my neighbor who I really can't stand, and I'm going to love him all of a sudden. If I just work really hard, right, I'm just going to and the apples are just going to start falling all over the living room. That's just not how it works. The idea is we have to become apple trees. Okay? I have an apple tree in my backyard. I don't water it. I don't fertilize it. I don't touch it. I trimmed it once poorly. Okay? But the thing produces apples. Why? It's an apple tree. Right? That's just what it does. Apples fall down, and apples grow, and then they fall down, and I gotta remember to pick them up, but they just keep growing and falling. I don't do anything to it. It's just an apple tree. Okay? So the idea isn't that, we gotta go figure out how to work harder and love our enemies, and we gotta figure out how to do these things. No. The idea is, we gotta figure out how to connect to God so we become apple trees. Okay? We gotta figure out how to be with God so that our actual who we are is fundamentally changed and renewed by the Spirit of God, so that we just produce apple trees. So that we just begin to love because we know that we're loved. Amen? It becomes a part of who we are. Not something we have to say, I can figure it out if I work harder. But we just become apple trees. We become people who love. Okay, so now let's go back to the beginning. Luke 6, 27 to 36. I'll read it. But I tell you who hear me, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone takes your cloak, do not stop him from taking your tunic. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. Let's just stop there for a moment. Okay, so Jesus points out something really simple, right? Some people are easy to love, right? I mean, some people are just easy to love. This morning, I saw Gail Larch for a second. I'm going to embarrass him for a minute. I bumped into Gail with a friend of mine, a couple weeks ago. I was driving in Berkeley to a meeting, and I came back and I saw Gail. He was parked on the side of the road, and I stopped and just said hi to him. I was talking to my friend, and I was like, you just gotta like that guy. You know what I'm talking about with Gail? He's just a good guy. You just like him. You just see him and you like him, and it's not really hard to like Gail. It's not really hard to, if Gail asked to borrow something, I'd say, of course. Okay? You're just a good guy, right? So there's some people we know who love us really well. Can you think of some of these people in your head? People that love you really well. They make you feel at ease. They make you feel comfortable. They care about you. Right? They're not selfish. They're not greedy. And you just like being around them. And are we going to love these people? Yeah, of course. Okay, we're going to love these people. It's easy. But then there's other kinds of people. Right? There's people, some of us are chuckling already because you can already think of people in your head, right? You're thinking of people at work and people at school, maybe even people at church, people in your neighborhood, right? Family members, your crazy uncle, right? Your crazy cousin you gotta see once a year. And there are people we know who are hard to love. Amen? People who hurt us. And some of it can be comical, like your crazy uncle sometimes, right? You can kind of blow it off because it's kind of funny. But then there's people who really hurt us. People who hurt our family members. Right? People who wound us. People who have lied to us. Right? People who cause us, when we think about them, we get a little stressed out. These people are a reality in our lives. These are people we see every day. And they're hard to love. Difficult to love because it seems like they hate us. Maybe they do, maybe it just seems like it. They're mean to us. And it's really, really hard to love this. So I want you to take one more moment. Think about some of those people in your life. Think about the people in your life who are just hard to love. They hate you, they're mean to you, or they've wounded you, they've injured you, they've offended you. They offend you maybe just by how they live, they offend you. Think about those people who are just hard to love. And now I want to go back in time. Think about the first hearers of this message. Doug emphasized a couple weeks ago that in verses 17 and 18, Luke points out, there's a crowd from all over the place. This crowd is coming from all over the area. There's all kinds of different people in this crowd. So imagine Jesus teaching, and imagine being in Israel, in the first century. Jesus is teaching everybody to love your enemies. He's teaching them these, turn the other cheek. He's teaching them to forgive. Now imagine being these people, because these were real people. So think about it. We had probably peasants, right? You have peasants and laborers, and maybe you even had tax collectors mixed in there, some religious leaders. You have some poor people, maybe some slaves and some servants, and they're hearing this, to love our enemies. Okay? And now think about their context even deeper. Think about living in Israel, and you have all this great stuff, what we now call the Old Testament, about how great your country is, and God gave you this place, but the Romans rule your place. Okay? The big evil empire of the day has taken over your country. Like imagine if, in the middle of the 20th century, the Russians took over America. The communists came and got us, like the CIA was always worried about. And they took over. Okay, so think about being Israel. They're Roman soldiers, who you think of as pagans, right? But they're walking around with their armor and their tools of evil. And there's this crazy guy, Herod, who's kind of weaseled his way into being this leader and ruler of the people. There are unjust things going on. There's poverty going on. Okay, some of you might be forced into being a servant or a slave. Okay? And now you're told, love your enemy. Bless those who curse you. If someone hits you, don't hit them back. This meant real things to these people. Okay? Because in that group, there surely would have been servants or slaves who could remember being backhanded by a master. They can think in their head, okay, I know what he's talking about. Turn the other cheek. My master just backhanded me last week. And he's a Gentile, and I don't like him already. I already don't like that I'm forced to be around him at all. He hit me. And Jesus says to love this person. Yeah, imagine being a poor person who has one cloak, and you have to go to court, and someone sues you for your cloak. Your one cloak. And actually, even in Deuteronomy, it says you're not even supposed to do that. If somebody has one cloak, you're not allowed to take their other cloak. Even if you have something and they're supposed to give it to you as a pledge, you don't take it as a pledge. But imagine someone's trying to take your one cloak. And instead of fighting it, instead of arguing, you just say, okay, have my tunic too. Here you go, have my tunic. And Jesus is talking about real life scenarios for these people. Okay, these people are picturing Roman soldiers, okay, and they're picturing masters, and they're picturing, those people who are oppressing them. And Jesus is saying, no, really, we are going to love these people. This is crazy, right? And this is really hard. But it's not a theory, okay? It's not a theory. This is real what he's saying. So now I want us to think about today. Think about 2012, okay? Wherever you live, Alamo, Danville, Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, San Ramon, Dublin, anywhere else, okay? Think about the kinds of people that bother you. Because I'm guessing for the Israelites, there were kinds of people that bother, right? Maybe Samaritans were the enemy, Romans were the enemy. Maybe if you were a Sadducee, the Pharisees were the enemy, or the Essenes were the enemy. Okay, but you had these kinds of people around you, right, that you just don't like. Like, they're the bad people. They're the evil ones, okay, in their context. Now think about your context. Who are the kinds of people who are hard for you to love? Right? Whether it's their religious preferences, or how much money they have or don't have, what kind of job they have. Are there certain kinds of people? Think about the whole Bay Area. There's certain kinds of people in the Bay Area who are harder for you to love. People who bother you. Just by how they live, their philosophy of life, their philosophy of religion or politics or anything else. People that just are hard for you to love. Think about those people. What makes your blood boil? Just think about it for a second. Okay. Now let's go to the next section. I used to think this section was different, like now it wasn't a judging, but it's really the same idea here. Okay? Let's look at Luke chapter 6, 37 to 42. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you as well. Let's just stop there. Actually, let's go to verse 41. Why do you take a look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Jesus does something that he actually does several other times. He makes this clear connection between the fact that we are loved, and we are forgiven, and we are not condemned. He makes this clear connection between the fact that we are forgiven and the fact that we need to forgive others. He makes this clear, he ties them together, right? Right? We are forgiven, so we must forgive others. He ties them together. There's the same thing in the Lord's Prayer. In the Lord's Prayer. You know? Let us forgive those who sin against us. Okay, he also does it in this parable in Matthew 18:23 to 33, the parable of the unmerciful servant. Right? There's a king, and he forgives a servant a crazy amount of money. Right? Just a ridiculous sum of money, and just forgives it. And the first thing the servant does in the parable is what? He goes out, grabs the servant who owes him a few cents, and grabs him and wants him thrown in jail immediately. And how does the king feel about it? Not good. Not so good with that. But also, so through parables, through the Lord's Prayer, through the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus ties together these two ideas. These two ideas can't be separated. The idea that we are loved, we are forgiven, we are not condemned, and the idea of that we need to, in the same way, reflect that love, that forgiveness, that lack of condemnation to other people. Those two things have to be tied together for us. We love because we have been loved. We forgive because we have been forgiven. And the more we know that we are forgiven, the more we can forgive. Does that make sense? When we know that we're loved, right? When we know in the core of our being that we are forgiven, when we know how much grace has been shown to us, we begin to be able to show grace to the people around us who offend us. We begin to see life more clearly. We begin to be able to love and to not judge. About a week and a half ago, a video came out. Have any of you seen the Coney 2012 video? Okay, some of you. So, in my sphere of who I hang out with, that was a big deal. Okay, and the things I read, the emails I get, the Coney 2012 video in the nonprofit sector was a big deal. So this video came out like a week and a half ago, and I saw it right away. And basically, anytime I opened my computer for a couple days, Coney 2012, it would be in an email about nonprofit fundraising, or it'd be an email someone sent to me, or on Facebook. Every third person was Coney 2012. Watch the video. Watch the video. I gotta watch the video. I said, Andrew, I think we have to watch the video for the nonprofit sector. It's like the law right now. You have to watch this video and see what you think of it. So I watched the video. 29 minutes. And people are watching this thing like 29 minutes. So I watched it. Amazing video. I mean, beautifully done, and by the book, textbook nonprofit fundraising. I mean, you say this cause, you clearly make it, I mean, you clearly communicate it, and then you say, here's what we're going to do about it, and then here's how you can help us do what we're doing about it. I mean, it's like textbook. I was like, wow, this is amazing. But I said, Henry, there's a couple things in it that kind of bothered me, how the video was made, how it doesn't focus on the Ugandan people and what they're doing, and I think it's probably more complex, but so I kind of want to rip on the video, but I think it's really great. I don't know why part of me wants to rip on the video, but I think it's a great video. So I kind of was thinking about the video, and the video went viral. Like, it just went, I think there were over 100 million views the last week and a half, something like that. It just went crazy. And then, after it went crazy, a lot of the people, blogs I read, emails, started sending out emails and videos saying how bad the video was. Like the next day. People in Uganda were making videos saying how that it's oversimplified. Coney isn't even in Uganda anymore. So there's this guy, Joseph Kony, who's been forcing people to be child soldiers in his rebel army. And then people came out and say, he doesn't even live in Uganda, his army has shrunk, he's way outside of Uganda, this doesn't even make sense or add up. And he doesn't even talk about what the Ugandan people are doing. He's making the Americans out to be once again, the saviors come to America and we fix it. So I'm reading all of it, I'm like, yeah, that's right, that was a bad video. I was like, yeah, that's bad. So I'm like forwarding things and, posting on Facebook, yeah, here's a good critique of the Kony 2012 video. Because it's imperfect. It's not a perfect video. It's messed up. And I started thinking about it even then and realizing, what part of me likes the video and what part of me doesn't like the video. The part of me that really cares about people knowing about Uganda and caring about poverty really thinks it's great. The video is beautiful. It's great. The part of me, I think that thinks I know everything about development and nonprofit work doesn't like the video. The part of me that's insecure about my own little nonprofit doesn't like the video. The part of me that thinks I know it all doesn't like the video. And so I started wrestling with what part of me likes the video and what part of me doesn't like the video for what reasons. And why am I judging this video so harshly? So then after all this, the founder of the organization called Invisible Children was arrested. He had some kind of mental breakdown. So he was running through the street in his underwear, intoxicated, just a couple nights ago. And so quickly there's this barrage of, oh, we knew it. All he cared about was the money. He didn't care about Uganda. He's not a real good person. He's evil. He's bad. And the whole world is looking at this guy and bagging on this guy, just ripping him to shreds. And I looked at it again, at this guy, and read some other things, and it just broke my heart. Because I realized, here's a guy, he's my age, has kids around my age, started a nonprofit about 10 years ago, and he's seen it grow and develop. He made a video that is as well as he could. Tried to put together what was happening in Uganda and get it out there, get the message out. It wasn't a perfect video. I can critique it. But it got out there, and then he had a huge backlash. Huge backlash. All these videos made in Uganda saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's all about him, and their finances and their organization aren't transparent enough, he's just trying to get money, and all this stuff. And this poor guy has a mental breakdown, and now the whole world is looking at him saying, look at this crazy guy. He just broke down on the street in San Diego. And I think, how obvious it is that we need to have compassion on this guy. How obvious is it that a part of me was just jealous of this guy, and how famous he got in this great video, and now I look at this guy and I think, he did his best. Right? He made a beautiful video. He's done work in Uganda for like 10 years. And we should just love this guy. I should just love him. I should write him an email and his family and say, we're behind you, you're doing good work. But it's so easy to judge. Right? It's so easy for me to sit here and rip apart his video and rip him apart as a person and a father and someone who would lose it and run around the street and get arrested. It's so easy. But it's not right. It's not what Jesus has taught us. So in this illustration, I've been learning throughout this week just my own feelings about it, my own things, and I'm learning just to love this guy. And what if not judging him doesn't mean I think his video is perfect, right? It doesn't mean I think it's a good idea that whatever happened to him, he ended up running down the street, inebriated the other night, got arrested. I don't think that's a good idea, okay? Just to clarify. But I think that I need to love him. Does that make sense? I think that I need to look at him and say, here's a man who's doing his best for Uganda, and he made some mistakes, and we should love him, and pray for him, and care about him, and wish him the best. And not tear him down while he's down. And write, I could easily write another blog post about how this video was imperfect. What's the point of that? It's just silly. I'm trying to love this guy this week. I'm trying to love him, trying to see how can I care about him in his video, how can I appreciate his video for what it is instead of just ripping him apart. Let's look at one more verse, and we'll be done. Luke 6:35-36. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great. Hear this part. And you will be sons of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Listen to that again. He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. So I've been thinking about this question this week. What God do we really believe in? What God do you and I really believe in? I've been thinking about this song I heard when I was a kid in church. I remember this song from Lamentations. It's on the next slide. And the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. And I'm thinking about all the adjectives in the Bible to describe God's love. Right? Things like limitless love, never-ending love, never-failing love. The Abba Father that I know, the Abba Father of love, the Abba Father of grace, the Abba Father of forgiveness, the Abba Father of compassion, the Abba Father of extravagant love. I mean, the whole narrative in here, all the way in Jesus as well, echoes. The God that we serve has a love that is far beyond whatever we can imagine. The Abba Father has an extravagant, ridiculous love for everyone. A ridiculous, extravagant amount of grace and mercy and compassion. So my question for us is, what God do we believe in? Because when we really believe in this God of compassion and of mercy and of forgiveness, we can begin to show the same kind of compassion and mercy and forgiveness to the people around us. But the question I want to ask you is, what kind of God do we believe in? What kind of God do we really believe in? Or is a part of us hold on to the God who is angry and sitting up on a cloud, like ready to just get us if we mess up? If we believe in that kind of a God, it's going to be really hard to love our enemies. It's going to be really hard to turn the other cheek. If we believe a little more every day in the God of compassion and grace, it becomes possible to love our enemies as God transforms us. So hopefully you got a 3x5 card. I think most of you probably got it. Can you grab it? I'm going to ask you to just try something. And no one's going to collect it. No one's going to force you to do this. But if you don't have a 3x5 card, just find something else to write on, maybe you have nearby. I want you to think about a couple things, and we'll close. On one side of the card, I want you to think about who is a person or people or kinds of people who are hard for you to love. Okay, in case they're in the row behind you, you might want to use code words. Okay, like that person. Okay, but think about who are some people, make this real. Who are people, or kind of person or people you know who are hard for you to love? Who is the enemy or the one that is hard for you to love? Okay, and I want you to write that name down or the kind of person down or the people down on a piece of paper or on the 3x5 card. Write it down on one side. Okay, think about those people and write their names down. And on the other side of the card, I have a suggestion. On the couple slides, I have a suggestion of what to do, or you can write your own thing. So on my card, I'm going to write the names, and on the other side I'm going to write, Abba Father, let me know your extravagant love and forgiveness for myself and others. Just a simple reminder of the extravagant love of God for myself and others. Okay? So I wrote it this way. I like how I wrote it because I wrote it. But maybe you want to write it your own way. Okay? Maybe you just want to write, God, remind me of your extravagant love. Or God, remind me of your forgiveness towards me. Okay, God, remind me that you're an Abba Father of amazing love. Whatever it may be. But on one side, the names, and on the other side, write some kind of reminder of the extravagant, amazing, boundaryless love of our Abba Father, who loves us and forgives us. Okay, I'm going to pray for us. To close. You can go ahead and keep writing while I'm praying. That's loud. Father, thank you for your love. Thank you for your kindness, for your compassion, for your forgiveness, for your mercy. God, we believe that you can transform us into people who love. We believe that your Spirit can change us. We believe that you can make us apple trees. But God, help us to trust in your love. Help us to trust in your mercy. Help us, God, let it sink in a little more every day. How much we are forgiven, the fact that we are not condemned, the fact that we are your beloved children, who you just want to hug and tell us that you love us. God, please remind us of your forgiveness, and God, please help us to forgive others. Amen.